Haven't seen you since oh gosh, it's been a couple of years since oh gosh, it's been about 2 years. The last time I saw you was at
Wasn't that
Emmeline's Film Festival when you guys
yeah,
spoke. Yeah,
that was definitely 2 years ago.
yeah, way before the
Sheesh.
pandemic. That was wasn't that
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 wasn't
was
before the
was that
pandemic.
that wasn't?
That was I think that was like right. That was 2021. No, you know what? It was right before, right. It was right before the world shut down.
Okay.
It was literally right before the world shut down, maybe a week or so before. Like it was right before the
Wow.
pandemic.
Wow. And no one knew what was coming.
Child, I say that all the time. I think
Wow.
about that all the time. I'm like, yo, March 10th, 2020, nobody knew what was happening
Yeah.
or what would happen but the government.
Right. Yeah. Because I had some things planned, and we're live, but we could keep talking now, and we'll get to the introductions in a second. But I had a lot of things planned because I used to have a major film festival here, and we were planning for that. Had to shut it down, and
Child, I was
then
supposed to go to Egypt to direct some stuff for Issa.
oh wow,
Tickets purchased, deposit given to me, ready to go. We were leaving the first week of April. So we thought.
wow.
And then the COVID happened. That project has been since scrapped. I've been to Egypt, but that was on my own dime this go round. But yeah. So I get
Wow.
it.
Wow.
I
Well, let's
get
get
it.
this thing popping. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me on a Friday, which is a little unusual because normally we do the podcast on Thursday. But when you're in this business, the one thing that you must be is flexible,
Yeah.
especially if you want to have amazing people on your podcast. You move how they move. So here we are today on a Friday at 7 p.m. And I am so happy to be here with the one and only Okema T Moore. I met this phenomenal young lady a few years ago at another good friend of mine, Emily Stewart's October Film Festival, which is absolutely amazing. And it's just an honor to have Okema in the building because, ladies and gentlemen, when you talk about a multi hyphenate, this is a true multi hyphenate. Some people's like, oh, well, I do this and I do that and I do this. But this young lady really does multiple things and she does them well. Director, producer, actress, singer, and all that other good stuff. She has her own media company, MoorethanEnuff Media. So when you talk about a real multi hyphenate, I'm sitting here talking to one right now. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Okema T Moore. Okema, welcome to the show.
Hello. And thanks for having me, Floyd. It was really when we met, you had such great energy. And
Mhm.
then because I'm a producer, so digging is what we do. Did my homework, realized that you were like out here and about it and like not just one of those people that show up with things but
Mhm.
with nothing. And you were here for the community, and that for me is always an important indicator of who I want to share the time I don't have with. So, so yes, I appreciate you having me on, and it's really nice to finally get a chance to sit and talk.
Beautiful, beautiful. And you know what? You said something very interesting just now. And this is what I encourage people to do all the time is to research people if you're in this business. If someone says, well, I this and I that, okay, take out your phone and take a look and see
Not right
exactly.
then in front of them, though,
Oh no, 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 you don't want to do
because
that.
some people,
Yeah,
some
some
people
people
will listen and just take you for exactly what you say. So
right.
let's make sure let's make it plain for the people,
Yeah, oh no, not in front of them. Just wait until they go to the bathroom.
right? Or
But
you go to the bathroom.
right. But Diamond Greer says greetings. Greetings, Diamond, and thank you so much for being here.
Hi.
So let's get to it. Okema,
Yes.
how did you get started in this business?
I'm gonna give you the short version of a long story. I had a very young mom, And she was still learning the mom thing. And so keeping me, I a lot of times I spent with my grandmother who was older and dementia was starting. So my mom wanted me to just stay active. So I was in a bunch of classes, dance, tap, ballet, jazz, acting, music. I was around 6. I wound up getting chosen out of my acting class to do Sesame Street. And so I did Sesame Street 84 to 85. And it just kind of went from there. So from that to music, around 11, I started in a group here in New York. If you're from New York, like real Brooklyn, we used to do shows at the Arc. We used to do, Von King Park, the All-Stars. We won all the time. Shout out to CIA. And then we got a deal with Tamar's ex-husband and Gladys Knight's ex-husband on Elektra. Y'all don't know me from that, so clearly that didn't work out. And then, I was like, I'm never going to perform again because I thought we was about to blow. And then we got blown off. So I went to college, went to Philly after college, sang background for music and did a lot of studio sessions for Def Soul, worked with Carvin and Ivan, learned how to write songs, learned how to keep my harmony together and how to structure songs from them, and Deshaun Penn, beautiful, beautiful man and super talented. And then was like, all right, well, the music business is changing and I don't like it. And I'm a girl and I had gotten Me Too'd more times than I cared to express. And so I came home. I also was with like a deadbeat dude. And so I came home broke and broken. But then I started doing musical theater. And then I was like, okay, that's cool, but I want to act more. But at the time in the late 90s, early 2000s, there wasn't all this beautiful Black work. So I was like, I'm tired of being around the way girl number 6 or baby mama number 3. So I'm a journalist. Let me write something. Had no clue how to do any of that. But I started writing. Went to NYU. I couldn't afford Tisch. So I did their non-matriculated producing program because I know that, please don't take offense to this, but white people like paper. And I had a business degree already from Brooklyn College I was still paying for, so I could not afford to pay for a new one at Tisch. But I knew if I did at least their certification program, I could be like, but I went to NYU. Mm-hmm. It does work. They still have that program, P.S. NYU has a NYU School of Professional Student Studies, and this is not a commercial. They are not paying me, though they could. They have a wonderful certification program for all things media, gaming, yada, yada. So if it's something that you want to get more information on from a really high level standpoint, and you ain't got $160,000 to give to Tisch for MFA or BFA, those programs are very good. And so I just kind of went from there. And at 36, I left Wall Street. I was working in finance this whole time, but I was like, I was miserable by then. And I was like, if I keep relegating my dreams to nights and weekends, when do they really happen?
Right.
And I got to a point where I was literally crying every morning getting ready for work. And my dad was like, this ain't it. I was like, well, y'all not gonna fund my life, so what I'm gonna do? He's like, I don't know, but this ain't it.
Right.
So at 36, I left corporate America to make $10 an hour as a PA. I was working, mind you, I was working in finance, making almost 6 figures. But I took a risk of myself, and it's the best thing I ever did in my life. And so fast forward 8 years, and here we are.
Wow. Well, you just answered all the questions that I had written down. No, that's okay, because we're going to, I want to delve a little bit deeper, because I want to take it back, because we're going to get to everything that you just basically talked about. But first and foremost, Sesame Street. What was it like being on set? Because I loved Sesame Street growing up. What was it like being on set with Bert and Ernie, and you're seeing all of these amazing characters coming to life?
From what I remember, because remember, I was 6. Right. I was supposed to be in Big Bird's Flap Gang, but I was a tiny little thing. And his costume was ginormous, and he scared me, so I cried.
Oh, wow.
So they were nice enough to not kick me off set. And instead, I became a Groucheteer. They smeared some things on my face, threw a garbage can, lid on my head, and a Groucheteer was born. And then I would sing part of the, because I did sing even like as I was little. I think I sang before I talked, if you ask my father. But I sang some of the vignettes that kind of still play today. I mean, I don't get residuals anymore. I think the last residual check I got was like 13 cents.
Okay.
Because it's been so long.
Right.
But yeah, it was, from what I remember of it, it was fun. It was scary, but it was fun. And it was all these other kids and like really nice adults. I remember I ran into Roscoe Orman a couple years ago and we started talking and I was like, yeah, I was on Sesame Street and they call us Sesame Seeds. And he was like, you were a Sesame Seed? Oh my God. And you're still in the business. I was like, yeah, Mr. Orman, I am. And he was like, I was like, yes, I remember you, Gordon. So yeah, it was a nice break from my reality. I came up in a great family, not the greatest home. And so, you know, doing these things and being creative was an opportunity to kind of escape when maybe home wasn't so fun. So that was cool. And then I learned how to use my art to feel better.
That's phenomenal. Wow.
Anybody interested? This is coffee because
Okay.
Mama been up since 6 o'clock. My
Okay.
gym day starts at 7, and between work and fellowships and classes, listen.
I know that's right.
You can literally just, you know, you could just put it right here. Like you can just take the dark roast and just put it right here, and we would be good.
There ain't nothing wrong with it, girl. Because you know what? I do my coffee breaks every day. You
Well,
have
usually
to.
I relegate myself to usually 1 cup in the morning with a shot of collagen. But today was long. So here we go again.
Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it. But let's talk about your singing because born and raised Philadelphia.
Okay.
So you know, when I saw that you came here and you did some singing, but you said you actually got signed to a record label, but things didn't work out.
They sure did.
So what did that do as far as your psyche was concerned? Because as you said, you know, you're thinking, okay, it's going to be on and popping.
Well, our big shows started when we started opening for anybody who knows major city music events was the Black Expo. So we were the opening act for the Black Expo and their tour for about 2 years. So we opened for, it was Joe's first album. If you remember White Men Can't Jump and Joe, what is it? Fair East Side, Riff. They were on our tour. Malira was my very first vocal coach. SWV, Intro. It was all of us on this tour. And rest in peace, Kenny Green. He was the nicest dude to us. But I was a baby. I was like, when we started doing the Black Expo, I must have been about 13.
Oh, wow.
We got signed when I was 15 going on 16. Because I graduated high school at 17. So yeah. And so it was interesting. I mean, we learned so much. I learned so much about performance, but I wasn't the lead back then. I had a very mousy, I hadn't found my voice yet. Like I could sing, but I hadn't found my performer's voice yet.
Okay.
And actually at that time I wasn't a lead singer. I sang background and harmonies. I was a rapper. Don't ask. Because I won't.
I won't.
But let me tell you something. Anybody who went to A. Philip Randolph back from 92 to 96 knows I used to dust them boys in the high school gym and in the cafeteria. Sure did. I sure did. Used to hurt feelings. But when we lost the deal, like we had done all this work. We did Jack the Rapper in 93, the New Music Seminar. We had performed with Biggie, Pac, all these people.
Wow.
So you couldn't tell us that we wasn't about to like... And then when it all fell apart, we were kids, so we didn't know any of the like business side of it. And none of our parents were in the business either. So like all they knew is that it didn't work. And that's what they told us. And that's why I went to college for business, because I was like, yo, if I ever get back into this game, ain't nobody gonna do me like that again. So I went to college for business because all they would say is it was just bad business. And I was like, well, I want to know what that means. So I went to college for business with a concentration in finance because I knew that it was a money thing. And so I was like, well, I'm gonna learn business and money because y'all not gonna play me and play in my face again.
Right.
I mean, of course, I got played again and again. It's fine. But in my head, I was preparing myself for this life.
Right.
But I was, that's why I think I became a great producer. Like producing was my first, like, really good at it thing outside from performing, because I studied business and finance, worked on Wall Street, worked in hedge funds, you know what I mean? Had my 6, had my 63, was trying for my 7, all that stuff. And all of that has helped me be very keen in a business space. And so I am truly a left and right brainer, and it has served me very well. But yeah, those Phillies, they child, listen, I can remember we used to do the Black Lily at the original 5 spot on Bank Street before it burnt down.
Wow.
When River was the host. At any Tuesday night, you could see a very happy, let's call it, Jaguar cussing her man out with a drink in one hand and a phone in the other on stage in the middle of a riff. You could see a 14-year-old Jasmine Sullivan opening the show and then going home to do homework because she had school in the morning. You saw Kindred and the whole family soul.
Right.
Every horn, every...
Wow.
You saw the Jazzy Fat Nasties. You saw everybody. Back when Vivian and Carol Riddick were Jill's background singers. Back when Natalie was with, Kindred, like that, we were all a crew. John Barber, Tiffany Bacon, like we were all.
Wow. Yeah. Tiffany Bacon. Wow.
She's still doing a lot of stuff though.
Yes.
But yeah, no, it was all of us. R&B, the twins, Jay Hips, Ayana and Ayinka, like it was all of us back in those days. So if you were around in the Philly crew in the neo soul era of Philly, you know every name I've said.
Beautiful. Wow. Yeah, you have brought back some phenomenal memories, and it was a phenomenal time in Philadelphia, and the music was absolutely amazing.
I learned so much. When I tell you, like, because as a child performer in a group, we started out as a group of 6, then became a group of 4. But when you're in a group and it's children, you learn. But like when I was in Philly, it was just me. And like I would sing with groups, but I was just trying to soak it all up and find it and like, really find my voice. And like shout outs, if you're familiar with Arabi and Rakim.
Yes.
You remember when it says, when he talks to Eli. Eli was there. So Eli Tubo, I just ran into Eli the other day. So Eli Tubo was the very first person back in 1994 to give me a lead in a song. And he locked everybody was like, no, she can't do it. And he locked everybody out of the studio. We was at Quad. He locked everybody out of the studio and was like, it's me and you. And Eli was the first person to like really believe in me. And so for him and then it was funny because then I got his daughter. He has a daughter named Corinne, who's a performer, and she's a stage manager for theater, and she's just dope. So when I had hired and directed his daughter in a play for the Fringe Festival a couple of years ago, and it was such a full circle moment.
Yes. Because
he was like, you gave my baby a chance, because she had just graduated from school for stage management and performing. And I was like, she's perfect for this role. And she killed it. But he was like, I was like, I'm only doing for her what you did for me.
You see how that works? Ladies and gentlemen, do you see how that works? It's so interesting. You were a sesame seed. Then someone plants a seed in you and gives you a chance, not knowing at the time that the seed that they were planting would bear fruit. Turn bear fruit for their fruit. That is so, see, that's the way things work if you do things in good order.
And even if you don't, but understand when you haven't and fix it.
Yes.
Because you don't, like, we ain't always, listen, I'm the first to tell you, I wasn't always great, okay?
Me neither.
So sometimes, and that's the wonderful thing about life being as cyclical as it is. If you are open enough, you will get the opportunity to correct some things, be given second chances, and do better. But you got to want to do better.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But you know what? I'm sitting here thinking about the fact that you don't get the music deal. You decide to go to school And it's a gentleman that I listen to, Ed Milet, and he always uses this phrase that things don't happen to you, they happen for you. So the fact that you didn't get that deal, which puts you on a path of, well, I'm going to learn finance and I'm going to learn business. And this is one of the business. This thing is basically business. 90% business,
10%
10%
show.
show. So it's all in how you took it.
I mean, and I didn't take it well initially.
Right.
But you know what? I'm sitting here thinking about full circle moments, another full circle moment. So anybody who knows, anybody who knows about Carvin Higgins, he is one of the best songwriters, producers. He did all of Music's albums before Music went to Atlantic, because somehow there was this weird trade that Atlantic and Def Jam had where they took Fab and then Atlantic took Music, and then but Carvin was Music's like guru, and Carvin became a very big brother of a big brother of mine. This past week, I was shooting a Christmas movie that I booked for BET that's coming to BET. I don't know if they said it was for BET, but for BET, child. This coming Christmas holiday season, and I played Tashina Arnold's boss. Tashina and Carvin are best friends. Wow. And at one time they tried to be more than best friends, and that didn't work, but they did have a beautiful, phenomenally talented baby girl. Wow. So like the way that the universe just kind of, and like say I wasn't on the up and up and I wasn't, good person or whatever back in that time with Carvin, and that was when him and Tashina had the baby. And what if he had bad things to say? Who's to say? When they told Tashina, who was playing my role, I don't like that. Like it could have been like, so you gotta watch your steps because you never know when that joint's gonna circle back.
Yeah. And you know what? It's so important when you're in circles, how you speak about people. Because you never know who you're talking to and who they know, because the very person that you're talking about may be best friends with the person that you have to go deal with.
Yep.
And that's the way it works.
You step on today could be connected to the ass you got kissed tomorrow. You better keep it together.
Oh, I'm gonna have to borrow that one. But let's talk about the fact that you go to school, you get out, you go into corporate, but you're not happy.
I wasn't happy I was hyped about the ascent that I had in the Wall Street finance situation, especially because you're talking 98 to 2015.
Oh.
That's how long I worked in finance. I was in college for my first corporate job, and that was at the Dime Savings Bank, taking it all the way back. And I needed a full-time job to pay for, because my mom had gotten pregnant. So I had to move back home and help. And so I needed a full-time job, but they only had part-time jobs. So I wound up getting 2 part-time jobs at 2 different branches to make a full-time salary. I've always been a hustler child. And so, I got a chance to really kind of grow at the Dime, and then I left the Dime. And when I graduated from school, I left New York and went to Philly, Delaware, and I worked in Horsham at Whipple and Associates. I helped open the very first charter school in North Philly, Richard Allen Charter Prep, which I think is now closed, on 52nd and Lancaster. Child.
Oh wow, that's my stopping ground.
We was in the city.
Wow. Yeah, you were in the hood, hardcore. Yes.
Yeah. And so and then from there, when I came back to New York, while I was doing theater and auditioning and stuff, I still had to have a job because it's New York, and like it ain't never been inexpensive. So, and I was not trying to live with my mama. So, I started at, all these different firms, and I've worked for every major finance firm, from BlackRock to Credit Suisse to Barclay to Citicorp. And if you saw Inventing Anna, the last place I left in 2015 was the hedge fund Fortress. That's why when I saw Inventing Anna, I was cracking up, because I was like, y'all got God. Oh. Yeah, my times at Fortress were interesting. But this is all before DEI. This is all before, I remember when Obama was running, I was working at an investment bank, and I was the only Black thing in my unit. And these 3 very mediocre white men that I worked with were like, who's this clown? Does he think he thinks he's going to be president? You're right. And so those are the things I used to have to, I was so abused in those spaces. I remember one day somebody asked me if I lived in, they asked me if I lived in where I lived. I said Brooklyn and Bed-Stuy. And they were like, isn't that the ghetto? And I was like, I mean, maybe. Where do you live? It's like Upper West Side. I was like, I bet you pay your rent on time every month, don't you? He was like, I sure do. I said, I hear you. I pay my mortgage every month on time too.
Crickets.
So it might be the ghetto, but I'm in the ghetto with some of my name on it.
With a house, where you're paying into something where it's actually building equity. And
well, not even that. Your daddy left you opportunities. My granddaddy left me assets. Ooh, okay. But okay, yep, it's the ghetto. But all y'all live here now. So
right. And that interesting. Isn't that interesting?
I'm waiting to run into him in my neighborhood. Anyway, yeah. So life be happening and life be lifing. You just got to life with it. And sometimes it's gonna knock you down and you gotta go down, but you can't stay down.
No, you cannot.
2017, I had a full nervous breakdown. And thank God for my very Black therapist at the time. She literally saved my life because she was like, I was like, I need to go into something for somewhere because I don't know if I'm gonna make it out or if somebody else gonna get hurt. Like, I don't know. And I was serious about that. And she was like, no. I was like, what do you mean? She was like, because with, people will look you up. And with what you look like on paper, not that we know that that's not real. Right. But she's like, with what you look like on paper and being a Black woman, I can get you in, but I can't promise I can get you out. Because what people don't realize, and I'm not saying this is for everyone, so please don't come looking for me, child. But there are times and situations where if you go in with psychosis and you have a certain pedigree where the expectation is different, they may keep you to find out how you got there and why. And they may do things to keep you. And I'm not saying that this happens all the time and everywhere, but it happens. And so she was like, because she was a Black woman and she understood the system, she was like, no, we're not going to check you in nowhere, but we're going to get you help. And she saved my life. Beautiful. I probably wouldn't be talking to you if it were not for her. Beautiful.
That is amazing. And thank you so much for sharing, because, as Black people, one of the things that we often don't do is seek therapy.
Well, now it's a lot more people doing it.
Oh yeah. But when I was coming
that
up,
to this generation, the generation of the last 5 years, 7 maybe. Now, some of y'all take this feelings thing too hard and too far, because feelings matter, but so does execution and actual work. But I will give that generation so much credit for getting us to a place where there is language. Because words matter so much.
Yes, they do.
There's language. I grew up in a very West Indian old school household. There was not emotion. Like, we were so poor, all we had was money. You see what I'm saying? There were no I love yous being, and it's not to disparage my family. My family's amazing, but it just wasn't an emotional environment. And I've always been super sensitive, and I was lambasted for that sensitivity and for my emotions growing up. You know what I mean? And so this generation has made emotions important and valuable. And so with that comes the idea that it's okay to seek someone to assist you with your emotions, good, bad, or indifferent. And so therapy is now much more prevalent and popular. It's a little fatty now, but that's fine. That's a fad I can get behind.
Absolutely.
Like being better, that's a fad I can get behind, because there's nothing worse than you doing all this hard work and wonderful work and then going and seeking a partner, whether it's in business or relationship and love, and they're broken, and that's not going to work, because y'all are going to resent each other for 2 very different reasons, but at the same time. And so it's really important in this business that you get your head together, because it is a business that is situated to break you, especially if you look like this.
Yes.
of any shade, right? But if the darker you are, the harder it is, unless you're like exotic African, because like the Lupitas of the world is different. So it's like if you ain't super dark or potentially lighter, us regular in the middle of brown girls, we got it'd be hard. It'd be a little tough. Because you don't fit any exotic stereotype or exotic bucket. Like nobody's gonna look at me and be like, what are you? Now I'm a Black girl. I'm Black mixed with Black. I'm Bayesian Black mixed with Guyanese Black. Like, I mean, there's some Creole in there, but you can't say, you would know my grandmama and great grandmama was half white if I didn't tell you. So like, I'm Black mixed with Black. So it's not easy. And in this business it's hard. And so if you do not care for yourself and the people around you, it can get difficult. And, you know, and caring for the people around you is just as important as caring for yourself, because I think what people miss is that as creatives, the world is only conditioned to consume what we produce. They are not here to make us feel better. They are not here to do any emotional work with us. They are only here to consume 9 times out of 10 what we produce. So if we do not utilize the muscle memory that we have, that we use to make these things, to recognize when our counterparts and our circle is on E and help them refill that tank, then we are not servicing our creative community at all. And that's not good either.
Yeah. And you know what? Those are such phenomenal points. And one of the things that I like to do with creators in this space, I'm very big on personal development and mindset, because my thing is you cannot be a good fill in the blank if you ain't right up here, because this is where it begins.
And you also don't want that thing. I will not say the artist's name, but there is a specific artist out here that people do not like to see this particular artist happy. They will not buy this artist's work. If this artist is happy and doing well, 9 times out of 10, they want to see this person downtrodden because they feel that that's when they give the best work. It's an unfair thing. Because the thing is, as an artist, you then begin to think that, right? And we know the trope of like the brooding, dark artist, and you never want your art to be dependent upon your trauma.
Right.
You never want to feel like you can only create when you are falling the hell apart. You know what I mean? When you feel like you're buried, you have to remind yourself you're only planted. And so that can only happen if you have yourself together. And it's not always going to be together. Child, I cried this morning. It's fine. My best friend is very used to me calling her blubbering about things. So it's really important to have a tribe and to have people that you can trust and lean on, that are not going to manipulate you because of the things that you've shared. They're not going to regurgitate the things that you shared in spaces that are not safe for them to be said. You can't do that either, or shouldn't. And so all of those things are important to, because your flower is going to wilt every now and again. But if somebody is there to help you, you know, water that thing and till that soil and do a little something, it's a lot better and easier than you trying to do it alone. No person is an island, and you in this business you really can't be.
You cannot.
You can't be. Like, everybody goes and talks about, they like, even as a creative, everybody's like, oh well, Tyler Perry is amazing. But please understand that while it said writer, director, producer Tyler Perry, there would be no Tyler Perry without a Tim Story and a Roger Bob. You know what I mean? Were those gentlemen not his bolsters and his anchor when necessary, Medea wouldn't have been nowhere, but still in that car that he was living in when he was trying to get that thing off the ground.
Wow.
So you gotta curate your circle like you do your timeline, and you gotta make sure you have support, because without it, you listen to things like this, you know, what you give your eye gate and your ear gate and your heart gate will depend on how far those gates open for you. And so you got to be mindful of, you know, I read the Shade Room too, but I also start my day with affirmations. I also listen to podcasts about the business from really great positive creators who gonna be real though.
Right.
Like, you listen to this kind of show, you know, you listen to Conversation with Floyd Marshall Jr. You listen to, you know, the Pete Chapman podcast. You listen to, you know, all of these things that will edify you spiritually and teach you things to be aware of or to do in the business if this is the business that you're trying to pursue or excel in or maintain. Because you got to do all of it, right? You got to pursue it. Then when you get into it, you got to excel. Then when you've excelled, you got to maintain.
Yes.
And so all of it matters.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's one of the reasons when I first created the show, I did want it to be entertaining, but I want it to be educational as well. So that when you left, and this is what I say when I end all my shows, that I hope that you've learned something that you can immediately incorporate into your everyday life. Because it's nothing wrong. John Lee, it's a gentleman I listen to on Clubhouse, John Lee. He says either you're being entertained or you're being educated. And frankly, I would rather be educated. I can entertain myself.
Right.
But if I'm, as you said,
is my goal consistently.
Right.
I know I'm funny and silly and snarky sometimes, but I'm also consistently trying to make sure that I'm speaking things that, if not edify people, at least buoy them.
Right. Right. But let's talk a little bit about your writing. So did you start producing first or did you start writing first? What came first?
Writing. I used to write short stories. I thought I was going to write a novel, child, but that didn't. I got tired of that really quickly. But I started writing short stories. Well, actually, I started writing short stories as a kid. Actually, if you want to take it all the way back. So again, I talk about my mom a lot, and she knows this. And like, this is not to disparage her because her growth is like astronomical, and who she was when I was small is not the best friend that she is to me today. But back in the day, you know, again, my mom had me young and she was trying to figure it out. And, you know, and her parents at that time were going through some things. So it wasn't the best environment for her as a young person either. Right. And so when she would get mad at me, she would like give me the silent treatment. And I didn't always live with her. So like if I was visiting her for the weekend and she wasn't speaking to me, it would freak me out. And so I started writing her letters when she wouldn't talk to me to try and get her to talk to me. And I just discovered this in a session. See why therapy is important. And so I realized that those letters then became stories. And then I also had a grandmother. My grandmother, I lived in Guyana with my father until I was like about 4. And then I came here permanently, but I would go back and forth. His mother, who I was very close to, was a Guyanese woman who had migrated to the UK. So I would visit her once in a while, but I would write her all the time back when you had to like get an airmail envelope and an airmail stamp. And so I would write her and tell her stories about like the things that were going on with me. But I was like, she's not going to read this. Like, because in my head, my grandma Agatha was so fly and she was beautiful. And in my head, in the UK, she's living this fabulous life. And I'm like, if I don't make this interesting, she's not going to read this. Of course she is. I'm her grandchild. But in my little mind, I was like, no, I've got to make this interesting. So like I started as a writer, and then I started doing articles for different small magazines. And then in 2009, I had my own magazine, digital magazine. We were one of the first digital magazines in New York, called XI Magazine. I was a partner with 2 other young ladies, and we did digital cover. Like we were one of the first ones. We couldn't afford a physical print a physical published print version, so we got a really dope Wix. You know, we got all the plugins and it was beautiful. And so we would do these digital covers, but we would like do full blown photo shoots. And this is 2009, 2010, before anybody's really do. Like now everybody got the digital cover, but that's because ain't nobody trying to spend money on print.
Right.
In 2008, 2009, 2010, that was not a thing. And so I started writing for the magazine, but because I was the one that was in the business in some way, I then utilized my platform to give light to all of my friends that were up and coming they were at the radar. So like they weren't the people that like Essence and everybody was looking for, but they were doing things. Like everybody loves Reasonable Doubt with Emiyazi Corinaldi. I remember interviewing Emiyazi and Magnum PI with Stephen Hill. I remember interviewing Stephen. Well, Stephen's been a friend of mine for years. Stephen actually helped me move into this house. Stephen's the homie. But I remember interviewing Emiyazi and Stephen at ABFF when they won the Star Project together that year. You know what I mean? Fast forward 13 years, and she was the lead in the film that broke Ava, and she was, and now she's the lead in this amazing show on Hulu. And so like, and now Steven is the lead in 5 seasons of Magnum PI, which I used to watch in this very living room with my grandma, and she loved the original T.C. Carson.
Yeah.
So like, it's just, again, the universe will connect the dots however it needs to. But I started as a writer there. And then in about 2000, I left the ladies in 2011 because it just got toxic. They folded in 2012. I left November 2011. The magazine shut down February 2012.
Wow.
You put that together.
Wow.
And then I started a small production company with another young lady in 2012. And we started writing like one acts and shorts and whatever. And she was the more experienced screenwriter at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I was just kind of learning the format and the structure, and I wasn't really good at it yet. And she never let me forget that.
Mm.
But those words hung in my head for a long time. And so I didn't write for a long time after I left that partnership in 2015.
Just really quickly, you said she wouldn't let you forget that for a long time.
Well, her criticisms and words lived rent free in my spirit for a very long time.
Okay.
I did not know how to let them go because I had revered her talent. She's one of the most talented people I've ever met. But not always the nicest.
Mm.
And so we just parted ways for a lot of different reasons, and I pray she's doing well. But a lot of the back and forth that we had included a lot of things that hurt me. And I don't know if in hindsight she meant them, but they hurt. I mean, she meant them to hurt at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I did my hurting share too. I won't sit here and act like the victim alone. But a lot of those things made me very insecure. And so I didn't write for a long time. And it still is a insecure space for me.
Mm-hmm.
I do it now because I take a lot of classes and I feel more confident, but it's a hurt space for me. And that's my next like thing to tackle in therapy is like what that block is about. But I discovering the whole writing letters to my mom, like there's a lot of trauma for me around writing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I get that. So it's like, it's interesting that I'm now back at it. I have writing to do when I'm done with you. Because I just won a fellowship. And so I have assignments.
Oh, wow. Well, you know what? Well, we're going to jump ahead to it since you brought it up. Okay. That was a question I had later on, but we can talk about it right now. You just won a writing fellowship. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I know how it happened because I read what you wrote. But for the audience, how did that happen? And
random.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to really listen to what she's about to say, but go ahead.
It was so random. So I am on the board of the Black TV and Film Collective. If you're not a member or don't know about us, check us out, blacktvfilm.org, blacktvfilmcollective.org. And we help Black and diasporic artists, African diasporic artists make their work. And so there's a newsletter that goes out every week, and our amazing coordinator, Kellyanne Jones, sent out like a same day. She sent out a newsletter, and it happened to be that there was Kellyanne Jordan, I'm sorry, that there happened to be like a same day thing. And I think I opened that email about maybe 3 p.m. And there was a fellowship application for Writers Boot Camp. If you're not familiar, they're an amazing writers support space. Writers Boot Camp was doing something with women going places, and they were offering a fellowship for their 12-week boot camp to write your pilot. And I had written a short that I'm looking for funding for to shoot this year. Well, I'm probably just gonna fund it myself, but that I'm gonna shoot this year, and I want to turn it into a series, a pilot. But I've never written a half-hour comedic pilot before. I've only written dramatic. And so I was like, well, let me try because it's a different idea, whatever. So it was due at, I think, 8 p.m. Eastern. I opened that email around 3 o'clock. I got it out about 6:30. I got it.
Wow.
And Kelly wasn't sure if she was going to put it in because it was last minute. And it was funny because when I got it, the first person I called was her. And I said, I just want to remind you that you matter and that you are literally why I'm making my work. Because that's our hashtag, make your work. I said, if you didn't take the impetus to say, well, somebody can try and put that last minute posting in there, I would have never even known about it to apply to get it. And she did, and I did. And so amen and amen.
But you know what? You had to actually pull the trigger. You had to actually do it because you were sitting there, should I or shouldn't I? And it's so funny because I did a post today and I said, the best way to slay a doubt monster is with action.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's
You
good.
know, I try.
That's good.
But it's so true because the best way to silence the doubt in your own mind is to take massive action, because here's what ends up when you do that. Even if you fail, you took action.
Well, the other piece of it is preparation, right? And the reason why I was able to do that so quickly, because normally those applications and essays and stuff take a minute for you to formulate your thoughts. And here's the thing. I've gotten to second round of Sundance Producers Lab 3 times. I've never gotten past the second round. So semifinals, you want to call it. I've applied 6 times. Last year, I was a semifinalist in the Creative Directors Diversity Program. Finally made the semifinals. That was my 4th time applying. So these places have been telling me no for years, but the preparation is not the yes and the no's, it's in the applications. Whenever I have to do any of those applications, I make a Google Doc and I name it whatever the application is in the year, because I know that I'll be applying for stuff year after year when they tell me no. And so it's easier to do these applications at this point because I just look at my old answers to something that's akin to what they're asking me and just remix that joint and copy, paste, adjust, tweak, twist, and press send. I'm not spending 3 weeks trying to figure out what to write because I done wrote good stuff. Even if I didn't get in, I know it's not because of my application in terms of my writing and what I said, because what I said was original and authentic to me. And I just tweak it based on where I am or what it is or whatever. So I literally have applications dating back to about 2017 to now of various labs, fellowships, and things that I've applied for. That's how I got the MasterCard Small Business. I got a MasterCard Small Business grant last year because I saw it on Instagram and I had applied to 2 other small business programs that I didn't get. I looked at those answers, remixed that joint, and then I wound up winning 10 grand.
Wow.
And now, as their winner, they had lost the company that was supposed to, they lost their in-house team that was supposed to make our spotlights. So I was like, well, I'm a winner, but I also make film, television, and commercials. Why don't you just let me do it? So guess who's making all the MasterCard winner spotlight commercials?
Wow.
Now don't get it twisted. It's for the company they did it with, and I won't say them out loud. You'll have to look for that. So it ain't a big budget. Don't get like it. I'm probably gonna spend money to do this, but it's a worthy investment because then More Than Enough Media made 5 MasterCard commercials.
That is amazing. And you know what? You said something that really validates what I talk about. And I just want to thank you for that. You said that you have all of these applications saved. And you've referenced them when you're putting together something new. So let's call that, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to call that failing forward.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the things that I talk about all the time is when you fail, that's not the end. That's actually a new beginning, because you keep what works and you throw out what doesn't.
My dad used to say, "Chewdy meat and spitty bones."
And that's basically what you did, because okay, you got second place. So okay, I got second place, so I'm not that far away.
Second place.
So I'm gonna say that, build on it, which is, girl, you just validated what I want. So you know what, you just let me know that I'm on the right track with that. But
listen,
that is,
I learned it from someone else,
right?
And so you just have to just keep going.
Yeah.
Like you just got to keep going. And like, if I would have said, screw it. After the first no from Sundance last year, when I applied last year, I got a personal email from the director of the program. So I didn't get a canned no. She sent me a beautiful personal letter.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So clearly they're watching.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And so I applied this year again with what I think is a stronger script. It's a more potent program. I mean, more potent film. It's already done some things and had some traction, so it makes it more attractive. And honestly, the same day that I applied for that writing fellowship, I also applied for another producing lab for that feature script I'm speaking of, that this wonderful writer Teron Jones wrote. And I got into that program as well. I do that in June.
And you say you weren't the best writer.
I mean, yeah. I mean, thankfully, for the last few years, I've been writing for most of my jobs in unscripted and commercial. Most of the commercials that I've directed, I've also had to write because branded don't come with budgets. And I mean, and even unscripted. Like right now, I'm developing a new show for Stars, and I was hired to write the original copy and show idea for the deck for them to greenlight it. Now, a showrunner has come in and she's moving all that around, and we have a full team now. So we're all writing the new version of that. But the fact that I got to, they called little old me, this little Black girl, to come in and work with the owners of this very large, very prestigious production company to create this thing. And I got to pitch it to the president of Stars myself. And we got the green light. So now we're making this show. So I'll be on the road in 5 minutes, in a few weeks to shoot the show. And even with that, like, because I had developed it I knew I had never run a machine that big, and Stars is a huge thing. So I knew I couldn't show run yet, but I was like, oh, I'm gonna probably be supervising producer. It's fine. The showrunner came in. I thought we were having a meeting. It was an interview. I had no idea. So that was weird, but it was a sister. She asked me what my end goal was. I told her in unscripted, my end goal is to direct more and to show run. And she was like, you want my job? Cool. Well, listen, you almost there. I see your credits. We just need to get you here, here, here. Boom, boom, boom. I can't give you the title that you're looking for, but I can give you a rate bump. Let's move you around. Here's the deal. I know you can do this. Come in as a producer, overall producer. I'll keep you on through post so you get to really learn from me and like dig in, stay under my wing, do the work, and I got you, and we'll be good. You don't do the work, I'll fire you. You in? She's like, so you in? And after I got off the phone with her, I bawled because I was like, what just happened? What just happened? And so I didn't get what I wanted, but I got what I needed.
Ooh, that's a good one.
But then today, the rest of the team is now assembled. And today I was feeling very inadequate because a lot of what I had originally put together, she scrapped, which is her right because it's her show now. And so the new team is they're journalists as well, but they come from like news. And so I'm like, damn, can I? And then I'm like older than everybody. And I'm like, and I was feeling very inadequate. And I call my best friend and I'm crying and I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'm in over my head. She was like, if you don't shut up, she's like, feel all the things, but get through that quick so we could talk for real. And I was like, I hate you. But she's like 31 years we've been best friends. So she knows like all of the iterations of me since 1992. And I had to realize like, yes, those young ladies know social much better than I do because I don't tick or talk, child. And they may be news journalist folks, which is something I haven't done in so long, but I bring value too. And so it's up to me to figure out what my superpower is and Voltron that thing versus butting up against what they do versus what I do, as opposed to it being and not or. So like they do blah, 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 and they're great at that. Great. And I do this. So together we gonna kill this show versus they do this, but I don't do that. So I don't have any value. I don't belong here. I shouldn't do this. I'm in over my head. And that's where it went for a little bit. So like it still happens, right? But I had to remember that this very high-powered showrunner who just came off of a very large show that's probably going to get a whole bunch of awards this season didn't have to say, little black girl, stay and let
Mm-hmm.
me teach you. Because she then told me she had a partner she was going to bring in already.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, she's from the school of, if there's already one black woman here that can do it, I don't need to push her out for another black woman.
Right.
And she kept me and just found another position for her friend.
And the beautiful thing about that is all of the people that you just mentioned, the very highly qualified people, interestingly enough, they may be sitting there having those same thoughts that you are. Oh, they look across the room, because I'm sure people have looked you up. They look across the room, they've looked you up, and your resume is extensive. So let's not get this twisted. And then they're like, OMG, I'm going to actually be in a room with her. I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I'm good enough, because I'm sitting across from a kid. Look, she's worked on Oprah. She's worked on Netflix. She's worked on Nickelodeon. She's done Disney Marvel. She's worked on Lifetime. She's done all of this stuff. I don't have that pedigree. So it's interesting how we and I had this very conversation with my life coach. The fact that,
Shout out to the life coaches out there.
girl, look, I'm a life coach and I have one. Trust and believe, you need a coach. But I had the conversation because I find as I'm moving up that voice gets louder and louder and louder.
Because you know why that voice gets louder? Because as you ascend, the room gets a lot thinner.
Yes.
And so the voice has room to echo,
Mm-hmm.
because there are not enough bodies in there to soak up that sound.
Yeah.
It's only a couple of y'all.
So I'm gonna throw that right back at you.
You're right. No, but I realized that.
Yeah.
Like, I realized that. And like every unfortunate, ugly thing that has happened to me in my life and or my career
Mm-hmm.
for the 44 and a half years I've been on this planet, has lent to the human that you talk to today.
Yes.
And I'm not here to glorify none of that trauma because it's ugly, right? And some things I thought were scars are scabs. And if the right thing picks at it, it'll bleed again.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm working on it. But I have a lot more scars than scabs at this point.
Yeah, so we're almost done. I had a lot more questions, but we'd be here
I'm
for 3 more
sorry.
days. No. This was absolutely amazing. You're going to have to come back, because there are so many things that I did not get to ask you, but this has been such an amazing and eye-opening conversation. And you know what? It was the conversation that was needed. So this is great. But I just want to talk really quickly about two of my favorite people, Emmeline and Patrick.
I just had dinner with Patrick yesterday.
Wow, Patrick, and I actually met Patrick via Clubhouse, and he actually popped into my room on Clubhouse last week. I was so happy to see him because I hadn't, and in those air quotes, see him. But Emmeline Stewart, I've known Emmeline for quite some time. They are such amazing people. What type of impact and what role have they played in your development as the Okema that we see in front of us today?
Both of them, I probably wouldn't be here without either one of them. Mm-hmm. Real talk. Emmeline was the first person to see this version of me before I ever thought about even being it, when all I wanted to be was an actor and a singer. Emmeline in 2010 took me to a very fancy dinner and told me all of this was going to happen. Not in detail, like not in some, soothsayer way, but Emmeline was the first woman, I should say, to see me. And I had such horrible instances with women in business. So it was like, for this Afro-Latina woman to see something in me. And at the time, Emmeline was also working in finance, and she was financing films and shorts and whatever. And I had taken something to her and she turned it down. Because she was like, you're not ready. You don't have all your ducks in a row, but I want to talk to you. And so, in that time, Emmeline has helped me out in terms of like shown things, invited me to places. And then I'm excited because in this stage of our lives, I was able to like nominate her to be on the board of New York Women in Film and Television, because I'm also on the board of New York Women in Film and Television. And I was able to nominate Emmeline to be on the board, and Emmeline got voted onto the board, and like all of these things. So we really support each other like sisters. She is my big sister. I love her. She has always held space for me, and she has made space for me. And so I would not be here without her. Pat, most people don't know, I've known Pat since I was 18. I met Pat in college. He was teaching college. I was going.
Oh, wow.
I met Pat at Brooklyn College. He was an adjunct professor, and he wasn't my professor. But he was an adjunct professor at Brooklyn College. I was in my sophomore year. Like I said, my mom got pregnant. I started at Marist up in Poughkeepsie, and my mom got pregnant, so I had to move back home. And so when I moved back home, I went to BC. And I met Pat in the student union building, because in the Black student union, well, it was the student union building, but honey, by that time it was the Black student union building. At least the second floor was. And so I met Pat there, and I didn't even know anything about Pat's like film and television life, but he was always just super cool. And he knew I was like the baby. Cause like I said, I was 18 going on 19. And so Pat just took a liking to me, and like a little sister, like that's my little sis, like, and he was just cool. And so as we knew each other, it was like very much in passing and passive. And then when we kind of met each other again, like a decade later, he was in film and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay. But he was also at Verizon. He was like a supervisor at Verizon. So I was like, oh, somebody else who knows what it's like to have to put in them hours and then go home and put in them hours. And one more quick story now before we finish with Pat. So when 2017 was my first network television job. I was the office production assistant for the final season of Oprah's Masterclass. And I was there, and I was like, my boss was like 23, white, fresh out of college. I was 38 by then. And all of the masters that season were Black. And I was like, and she just didn't know anything about anybody. And it was annoying me. And I hit Pat. I was like, I don't think this is for me. He was like, excuse me. He was like, bitch, the hell it's not. You gonna stay there. You gonna stay there, and you gonna learn everything you can. And what you're not gonna do is throw that little white girl under the bus. You're gonna show her what you need to, but you're gonna make yourself invaluable, and you're gonna get what you need to get, and get off my phone. Because that's how Pat talks to me. But he was right, because in 30 days I was promoted from PA to coordinator. And I made and so we didn't have a big budget. Oprah rich because she don't spend money. We didn't have a big budget, and we needed like actors to play these roles, but we didn't have a big budget for the actors. We actually didn't have any budget for the actors, because anyone who knows about licensing, when you have musicians and music, that's where all your money go. And we had LL, we had Gladys Knight, we had all these expensive people. So we didn't have an actor budget. So I was like, bet. I called all my actor friends. And so I had my friends and their kids play baby Gladys Knight, baby Shaq, Usher's dying dad, Tyler Perry's mama, like, because we did dramatic illustrations about all these people's lives. Aside from their like actual interview shoots. So I called all my actor friends. So I had cast the thing with all my friends. And my boss was like, wait a minute. And then like it was a white company that made the show. The director was white, but she's to this day one of my biggest mentors and friends. I love her. She gave me a shot when nobody else would, because there are a lot of Black EPs that I'm still friends with today, and they don't remember I was a little girl in their inbox that they ignored. White woman gave me a shot, and I took it. But yeah, so I cast it. By that time, I was the unofficial AD, because she was a DGA director, but I was the unofficial AD. And I just got to do all this stuff. And it was great. It was great. But Pat was the one that told me to stay. And I'm glad I listened to him, because it really was my foray into the life I live today.
Wow. It's always good to have people. Yeah. It's always so good to have people that truly have your back and will tell you the truth.
Oh, no, he wasn't playing with me.
Because you know what? He saw what you had the same way Emily saw what you had, and he wasn't going to let you waste an opportunity. He wasn't going to do it. But
look at what he did for himself. If you don't know who Patrick Coker is, look him up. Patrick Coker, directed his first episode of television at 55 years old. I'm sorry, Pat might have been. Is Pat 55? Yeah, at 55. You know what I mean? And so he left Verizon, did an early retirement, went full-fledged into the joint. I mean, he was lucky because he had early retirement, so he had money.
Mhm.
I left and I ain't had nothing. It was tuna and cereal for a long time. But, you know, the people that feed me this advice, you know, do it for themselves. Look at Emily. You know, all my life, everybody kept telling me, pick one. You can't do all of these things. Pick one. Pick one. Everybody told Emily, you can't open up a theater. Nobody's done that. She about to open a multiplex. So she about to have 2 theaters.
Yeah.
And 4 screens. What?
I'm like,
So,
whoa.
like, right. You know, everybody told me to pick one. Well, I didn't have to pick one because today I spent the day, you know, my first call this morning was producing for the Star Show. Then I had a conversation with a network that wants to pick up something that I EP'd and directed for another creative. It's not even my project. You know what I mean? And then I went and, you know, had to do some paperwork for the project I just acted in. And then, like, so my literal days are all the things, but everybody told me to pick one.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the dummy? Not me, not this girl.
I know that's right, Miss Multi Hyphenate. So, Miss Multi Hyphenate, Okema T Moore, what advice would you give someone that is about to embark on their film industry journey? What would be one thing that you would say to them?
Real talk, this industry ain't shit. Don't be ain't shit too. Like, this industry is built to break you up and break you down. So don't be the thing that does that to yourself or anyone else. If you say you are something, don't just wake up one day and throw a title on a card on Vistaprint and tell somebody that's what you do. Take classes. It's a craft. You're not going to go get your heart worked on by the foot doctor. So, like, be good. Learn the thing. Take the time. If you have to take 2 steps back, kill your ego. Take them, because those 2 steps back will be the thing that will ascend. It will ascend you 12 steps forward if you do it right. If you say yes to something at a $5 rate, not 5, but you know what I mean. Give it $500 effort because you said yes and all you have is your word. And once you said yes to the $5 rate, you can't give them $5 work because you said yes. Do it. If you say you are the thing, be the thing. Bet on yourself. But this is not a fake it till you make it type of place. Now, it's a fail till you make it type of place, but it's only failure if you stop. But it's not a fake it till you make it type of place. So ain't nobody saying you got to pay for film school. There's way too many resources out here that didn't exist when we were coming up. Mm-hmm. We didn't have none of this. I came up in an era where there wasn't no computer in your pocket. Okay? If you wanted to call somebody, you had a roll of quarters or a calling card. So you got there's so much out there. And for all my over 40 folk, it's not over. It's just beginning. You have a right to still do this. You have a right to still chase this. You have an opportunity to still be the thing you want to be at some level or another. It is not too late. You are late to the party. That's fine, but dance. That's all I got. That
was beautiful. And I didn't start in this business until I was 38.
Child, I was a 36-year-old PA coming off of 6 figures, making $10. Ain't nobody tell me nothing about nothing and no egos, child. Because I went from trading millions of dollars with my boss to being like, what kind of, you want your coffee to be your color or my color? How you like coffee?
Do you want the powdered cream or do you want the
right?
You know,
I'm a PA, so do I have to go to the bodega and get you the creamer? Is that what you want? What is it? Hazelnut? Got you. Got it.
But you know, you put in the work. And before we go, I know I said the advice was going to be the last thing, but you said something that was so interesting. And when I heard you say it, it really pushed me back in my chair. You said, be in order. That was a while ago. And I knew you did it. And that really resonated with me because so often, like you just so eloquently stated in your advice, oftentimes, so many of them are not in order. You know, you want to put the cart before the horse.
I mean, and it's not that like you only do everything if you must. Find a team to help you get in order. Everybody wants to network this way. You make so much more headway doing it this way. Look to your left and your right. Look in those classes, in those rooms. You know, everybody want to get the Ava. Who's asking who's Ava's assistant? Because Ava's assistant wants to be Ava. So if she finds the next middle of nowhere, guess what? So like being in order is not just personal. It's also like how you build your tribe and your team. You know what I mean? I have a good friend named Chi Chi, and she is a like boss Broadway and theatrical manager now. But like her and Yvonne Orji used to get dollar slices together a few years back. They, you know what I mean? Network laterally, not just vertically, because you will find what you need and the people that will be honest with you and get you in order. Pat got me together because I was like, this is stupid. I'm out of here. And he was like, but you're not, though. He was like, but you're not. And he was right. And to this day, you know, and that very director just graduated from this season's DGA directors program. I mean, internal DGA directors program. And she's in her mid 50s. You know what I mean? And she's still taking classes and doing programs. So now utilize the resources that are out there, and then you'll be in order. Those things teach you how to be in order. The two organizations I just talked about, Black TV and Film Collective, Hugh, you know, phenomenal group. Black Film Space, phenomenal group. New York Women in Film and Television, and no, you don't just have to be or identify as a woman. We have plenty of male members. Phenomenal group. Find places that will get you in order.
Beautiful. So where can people find you? Where can they follow you? Because if you're not following this lady, you need to.
You can look me up on my website, MoorethanEnuff.com. I'm sure in your edit, you'll put that in there somewhere. But MoorethanEnuff.com is spelled super black. Enough is spelled super black, ENUFF. And you can look me up on all social under my name, Okema T Moore.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been an absolutely amazing hour and almost 15 minutes, and it didn't even feel like that. No. There is nothing to be sorry about. The beauty of this show is I have on such amazing people such as Okema, and I love learning. You know, I have a master class every single Thursday and Friday, and this was a master class. So if you are going to be listening in the future, really sit and listen to what she said, because she gave so many amazing points on how this business really works. I'm never going to have people on that are going to feed you any bullshit. I'm just not going to do that. I'm going to have people on that are really going to tell you what really goes on in this business, because we want to see you win. That's why we do this. So I hope that you all have enjoyed this show, and please share it on Apple. And if you haven't, leave a rating, because that works with the algorithm.
Ratings matter, guys. So take the 2 seconds that you would use to like send your best friend another silly meme about a baby and a dog and leave a rating. Thank you.
Thank you so much. What she said, that's a PSA announcement, so you have to do it.
Public service announcement.
Public service announcements. So ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you so much for being here. And I will end my show the way I always end them. Love this like a hobby, but above all else, treat it like a business. And on that note, have an amazing night. Good night.
Bye, guys.